The last resort. The Galactic Institute of Emergency Response floated like a silver jewel against the backdrop of three suns, its crystalline spires reflecting the prismatic light in dazzling patterns. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, Director Vex 427 addressed the gathered faculty, their varied forms creating a living tableau of the galaxy's most advanced species. The statistics are undeniable. The director's voice resonated through the chamber, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with concern. Our success rate has dropped 12% in the last solar cycle. The void storms are becoming more unpredictable, and our standard protocols are failing more frequently. Among the assembled faculty, Professor 69 shifted uncomfortably in their quantum suspension field. Surely you're not suggesting we implement the human proposal. The director's patterns flashed with determination. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. The human species has a remarkable track record of surviving in conditions where technology fails. Their methods, while primitive by our standards, have proven effective in scenarios our most advanced systems cannot handle. A murmur of disapproval rippled through the assembly. Instructor Klin, a towering figure of living crystal, spoke up. Director, with all due respect, we are the galaxy's premier emergency response training facility. Our graduates serve on every major rescue fleet. How can we justify teaching methods that predate quantum manipulation? Before the director could respond, the main doors parted, and a small figure stepped into the chamber. The assembled faculty fell silent, many experiencing their first in-person view of a human. Maya Chen walked with the confident stride of someone who had spent their life defying expectations, her emergency response suit marking her as a veteran of countless rescue operations. Because, Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, when you're trapped in a void storm with your quantum systems failing and your AI corrupted, you'll wish you knew how to tie a proper knot. The director's patterns rippled with what might have been amusement. Everyone, meet Instructor Chen. She has more successful rescues in void storm conditions than any other operator in the sector. Using ropes and mechanical advantage systems, Klin interjected, their crystalline form vibrating with disdain. Maya smiled, reaching into her pack. Among other things, would anyone like to see how to create a pulley system that works even when gravity inverts? She held up a length of carbon fiber rope, its surface seeming dull and lifeless compared to the quantum tools surrounding her. The silence that followed was broken by an emergency alert that made the very air vibrate. The director's patterns flared with alarm as they accessed the incoming data. Colony ship Stellar Dream has lost all power in the Perseus void, they announced. 5,000 souls aboard. Primary systems dead. Secondary systems corrupted. Quantum drive critical. Maya was already moving toward the door, coiling her rope with practiced efficiency. Sounds like a perfect first lesson. Who's coming with me? The faculty exchanged glances, their various forms of expression all conveying the same mixture of disbelief and reluctance. Finally, Professor 69 moved forward. I'll bring my advanced students, they said. Though I must protest this unorthodox approach. Protest noted, the director replied, their patterns now pulsing with urgency. But time is critical. The Stellar Dream is carrying colonists from 12 different species. If we lose them, they left the implications hanging in the air. As Maya strode toward the emergency response bay, she heard the distinctive sound of reluctant followers behind her. A smile played at the corners of her mouth, not of amusement, but of determination. She'd seen this before, on every station and every planet where she'd served. The dismissal of primitive techniques, the over-reliance on technology that could fail at the worst possible moment. She entered the bay, where a group of advanced students waited, their forms as varied as their instructors. Their quantum tools hummed and pulsed with energy, creating a symphony of advanced technology. Maya pulled out her rescue kit, ropes, carabiners, mechanical ascenders, and a variety of other tools that had served humanity well since they first dared to explore their own world. Today, she announced to the gathered group, you're going to learn why humanity never completely abandoned the basics. Lesson 1 begins in the heart of a void storm. The students stared at her equipment with a mixture of confusion and disdain. Maya recognized the looks. She'd seen them countless times before. But she also knew what was coming. In the heart of a void storm, when every quantum device failed and every AI crashed, they would understand why humanity still taught their children to tie knots. As the rescue ships powered up, Maya finished her equipment check. The fate of 5,000 lives hung in the balance, and she was about to show the galaxy's brightest minds why sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones. The director's voice came over the comm system. Void storm intensity increasing. Stellar Dream's quantum core showing signs of imminent collapse. You have 4 hours before total structural failure. Maya secured her last carabiner and looked at her unwilling students. Time to show you how we did things back on Earth, when all we had was gravity and guts. The rescue ships launched into space, their quantum drives humming with power. Ahead lay the void storm, its swirling energies defying the laws of physics. And somewhere in its heart, 5,000 souls waited for rescue, not caring whether their salvation came from advanced technology or simple mechanical advantage, only that it came in time. The Human Element. Part 2. Theory versus Practice. The rescue fleet pierced the outer edges of the void storm, where physics went to die. Maya watched as the students' quantum instruments began to flutter and fail, their readings becoming increasingly erratic. Through the view screen, the Stellar Dream was barely visible, a massive shadow against the churning chaos of the void. Quantum stabilizers failing, announced Rylix, a student whose crystalline form sparkled with nervous energy. Attempting to compensate with. The ship lurched violently as another wave of void energy washed over them. Warning lights flashed across every console, and the comfortable hum of advanced technology began to stutter and die. Stop trying to compensate, Maya commanded, already pulling equipment from her pack. The more power you push through those systems, the faster they'll fail. Basic thrusters only, minimal power signatures. Professor 69's form rippled with indignation. These ships have triple redundant quantum systems. Surely you don't expect us to. Another surge hit, and this time the quantum drives went completely dark. The emergency lighting cast an eerie glow through the command deck as the ship began to drift. Now, Maya said, laying out her equipment, we do this the human way. Rylix, take manual control. Minimal power, just enough for life support and basic maneuvering. Manual control. Rylix's crystalline surface clouded with confusion. But the predictive algorithms are worse than useless in a void storm, Maya finished, pulling out what looked like an ancient mechanical compass. The students stared at it as if she'd produced a stone axe at a quantum engineering symposium. That's a magnetic direction finder, said Lan, a student whose gaseous form swirled with patterns of disbelief. The technology is prehistoric. Maya smiled as she calibrated the device, and completely immune to void energy. The Stellar Dream's hull is primarily ferromagnetic. Even without power, it creates a detectable field. She held up the compass, watching its needle swing decisively toward the stricken colony ship. The students exchanged glances as Maya began distributing similar primitive devices, mechanical rangefinders, pressure gauges, and basic optical instruments. Your quantum sensors can be spoofed by void energy. These can't. They may be simple, but they're reliable. As if to prove her point, another wave of void energy washed over them. The few remaining quantum systems sparked and died, but Maya's instruments continued functioning flawlessly. Stellar Dream, this is Rescue Team Alpha. Maya broadcast on a simple radio frequency, another technology so basic the void couldn't disrupt it. We're approaching your position. Status report. The response came through with static but was clear enough. Critical. Quantum core containment failing. Hull integrity at 60% and dropping. We have multiple species requiring specific atmospheric conditions, and our life support segregation is failing. Maya turned to her students. This is where it gets interesting. We have 5,000 lives to save, no quantum systems, and physics itself working against us. Welcome to real emergency response. She pulled out a set of schematics, actual physical drawings on synthetic paper. The Stellar Dream is a parameter-class colony ship, standard design, which means standard mechanical backup systems. We're going to teach you how to operate them. Mechanical backups. Professor 69 interrupted. Those systems haven't been used in centuries. None of us are trained. Which is exactly why I'm here, Maya said, spreading the schematics across a deactivated console. Every ship in the galaxy still has these systems because someone, long ago, was smart enough to know that technology can fail. Today, you're going to learn why humanity never forgot the basics. She pointed to different sections of the ship. We need 3 teams. Team 1 will handle physical docking. Yes, actual mechanical docking. No quantum tethers. Team 2 will deal with atmospheric separation using manual valves and pressure differentials. Team 3 will help me stabilize that quantum core using principles that were old when humanity first reached their moon. The students looked at the schematics with a mixture of horror and fascination as Maya continued her briefing. The elegant solutions they'd trained with their entire lives were useless here. Instead, they were about to learn about mechanical advantage, pressure dynamics, and the kind of practical physics that had kept humanity alive through countless disasters. I know this isn't what you trained for, Maya acknowledged, seeing their expressions. But right now, we're the only thing standing between 5,000 people and oblivion. So, who's ready to learn how humanity handled emergencies before we had quantum anything? One by one, the students moved forward, their various forms gathered around the schematics. Even Professor 69 drew closer, their initial disdain giving way to reluctant curiosity. Good, Maya said, checking her old-fashioned chronometer. Because we have exactly 3 hours to prove that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Team 1, gather round. I'm going to teach you how to dock 2 massive ships using nothing but mechanical winches and precise math. And trust me, when this is over, you'll never look at a quantum tether the same way again. The void swirled around them, its chaotic energies rendering their advanced technology useless. But Maya smiled, knowing that what they were about to attempt had worked for centuries before quantum technology existed. Sometimes, she thought, you had to go backward to move forward. And today, these students were about to learn why humanity had never forgotten how to do things the hard way. Into the storm. The mechanical docking clamps engaged with a resounding clang that echoed through both ships. Maya watched as Rylix manipulated the manual controls with growing confidence, their crystalline form reflecting the emergency lights in a dance of red and amber. Physical contact established, Rylix announced, a note of surprise in their voice. The mechanical alignment was actually more precise than quantum tethering. That's because you can feel the resistance, Maya explained, already preparing her next set of tools. No computer interpretation, just direct feedback. Sometimes the simplest connection is the strongest. The ship shuddered as another void wave hit them. Through the reinforced viewport, they could see the Stellar Dream's quantum core pulsing erratically, its containment field flickering like a dying star. Team 2, report, Maya called over the radio. Land's gaseous form swirled with agitation as they responded. Manual atmospheric controls engaged, but we're losing pressure in sectors 7 through 12. The void energy is causing microfractures faster than the automated repair systems can respond. Forget the repair systems, Maya instructed, pulling out what looked like an ancient welding kit. We're going to seal those breaches the old-fashioned way. Professor 69, I need your team ready for manual atmospheric cycling. The professor's initial skepticism had given way to grim determination. My students are in position at the mechanical airlocks, but the atmospheric mixing calculations without quantum assistance are basic chemistry and physics, Maya finished, strapping on her rescue harness. Your species was managing complex atmospheric systems before you developed quantum computing. Time to remember how. She turned to address the gathered teams. The quantum core is our biggest problem. Its containment field is failing, and when it goes, it'll take both ships with it. We need to shut it down and switch to mechanical backup systems. That's impossible, one of the students protested, their energy form flickering with distress. A quantum core can't just be shut down without the proper. Actually, it can, Maya interrupted, pulling out a set of manual override keys. Every quantum system has mechanical failsafes built in. They're required by galactic law, even if most people have forgotten they exist. She laid out the plan quickly, time ticking away with each passing moment. Team 1 will continue managing ship-to-ship stability. Team 2 handles atmospheric control and breach repairs. Team 3, you're with me. We're going into the core. The students watched as she distributed old-style radiation suits, thick, bulky things that seemed impossibly primitive compared to their usual quantum shielding. But as another surge of void energy washed over them, causing every advanced system to flutter, nobody protested. Remember, Maya said as they prepared to enter the stellar dream, everything we're about to do was standard procedure less than 2 centuries ago. Your ancestors knew these methods worked. Trust in their wisdom. They moved through the manual airlocks in teams, using mechanical pressure equalization instead of quantum fields. The inside of the stellar dream was chaos. Emergency lighting casting strange shadows as passengers from a dozen different species huddled in emergency shelters. Maya led Team 3 toward the quantum core, their boots magnetized to the deck as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. The core chamber itself was a nightmare of warning lights and failing containment fields, the quantum heart of the ship writhing with uncontrolled energy. The quantum matrices are collapsing. One of the students reported, their sensor system giving one last reading before failing completely. We have maybe 20 minutes before total containment failure. Maya nodded, already moving toward the manual control station. Perfect. That's all we need. She began explaining the shutdown sequence, a purely mechanical process that would force the quantum core into dormancy without the usual controlled power-down procedures. This is insane, Professor Zixnine commented over the radio. Even if you succeed, the ship will lose all quantum-based systems, life support, artificial gravity, navigation. All have mechanical backups, Maya reminded them, her hands moving steadily over the manual controls. Humanity lived among the stars before we had quantum technology. We made sure these backups would always exist, always work. Now we're going to remember why. The quantum core pulsed angrily as they began the shutdown sequence. Maya talked her team through each step, teaching them procedures that hadn't been needed in generations. The void energy made every electronic tool useless, but the mechanical systems, the valves, levers, and backup circuits, worked perfectly. Quantum containment at critical warned the ship's failing computer system. Core collapse imminent. Maya smiled grimly as she reached for the final override. Not today. She turned to her team. Brace yourselves. This is where we find out if humanity's paranoia about mechanical backups was justified. The override engaged with a sound like thunder, and for a moment, everything went dark. The quantum core's glow dimmed, flickered, and finally died, leaving them in total darkness. Then, one by one, mechanical systems began to engage. Backup lighting, emergency life support, and basic gravity generators powered by simple fusion reactors that had waited decades for this moment. Core containment stable, Maya announced, checking her mechanical gauges. Switching to backup systems. Team 2, begin atmospheric stabilization. Team 1, maintain docking integrity. This is just the beginning of our problems, but at least now we have a chance to solve them. She looked at her students, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of emergency lighting. Welcome to real emergency response. Now, who's ready to learn how to navigate through a void storm using nothing but stellar charts and basic trigonometry? The void churned around their joined ships, but for the first time since the rescue began, they had hope. Sometimes, Maya knew, you had to lose everything advanced to remember what basics could achieve. And today, a new generation was learning why humanity had insisted on keeping the old ways alive. The human way. With the quantum core safely dormant, the real work began. Maya stood in the Stellar Dreams Navigation Center, surrounded by students who were learning to plot courses using physical star charts and mechanical calculators. The void storm raged outside, its energy tendrils occasionally visible through the reinforced viewports. The void disrupts quantum navigation, Maya explained, her fingers tracing constellations on the chart. But it can't hide the stars themselves. Our ancestors crossed oceans using nothing but the stars and simple math. We can do the same here. Rylix, who had taken to mechanical systems with surprising enthusiasm, worked with a sextant, an instrument that hadn't seen serious use in centuries. The gravitational drift from the void is affecting our calculations, they reported, their crystalline form reflecting the starlight. Good observation, Maya replied. That's why we cross-reference with multiple fixed points. Quantum systems try to calculate everything at once. Sometimes it's better to build your answer piece by piece. Across the ship, other teams were dealing with their own challenges. Professor Zix9's voice crackled over the radio. Atmospheric mixing is stable, but we're detecting pressure buildups in the lower decks. The mechanical gauges are showing readings we don't understand. Across the ship, other teams were dealing with their own challenges. Professor Zix9's voice crackled over the radio. Atmospheric mixing is stable, but we're detecting pressure buildups in the lower decks. The mechanical gauges are showing readings we don't understand. That's because you're used to computers interpreting everything, Maya responded, already moving toward the access shaft. Time for another lesson in practical engineering. Meet me at Junction 42. The journey through the ship was an exercise in adaptation. Without artificial gravity stabilizers, they used magnetic boots and fixed guidelines, techniques that dated back to humanity's first spacewalks. The students were learning that sometimes the most effective solutions were also the simplest. At Junction 42, Maya found Professor Zix9 and several students studying the mechanical pressure gauges with bewilderment. She pulled out a simple stethoscope. "Listen," she instructed, placing the instrument against a valve. "Mechanical systems talk to you, if you know how to listen. That whistling means there's a partial blockage. No quantum diagnostic needed." The professor's form shifted with surprise. "You can diagnose system failures by sound and vibration, temperature, and a dozen other physical signs," Maya confirmed. "Your bodies naturally process more sensory information than any quantum scanner. You've just forgotten how to use it." As if to emphasize her point, another void surge rocked the ship. But now, running on purely mechanical systems, they barely noticed it. The backup systems, powered by simple fusion reactors, continued functioning flawlessly. "We've got another problem," Lan called over the radio. "The passenger sections are starting to panic. Different species have different atmospheric needs, and they don't trust the mechanical regulators." Maya nodded grimly. "Fear of simple machines is a luxury of peaceful times. Professor, gather your best students. We're going to give them a crash course in practical xenobiology." The next hour was intense education in the art of the possible. Maya taught them how to use manual air scrubbers, how to calculate atmospheric ratios without computers, and how to verify life support functionality using basic chemical tests. "Your ancestors," she reminded them as they worked, developed space travel before they had quantum technology. They built environmental systems that could support multiple species using nothing but mechanical engineering and chemistry. Those principles haven't changed. The students were beginning to understand. With each successful manual operation, each problem solved without advanced technology, their confidence grew. Even Professor Zix9 was showing signs of genuine interest in these primitive methods. "The void storm is intensifying," Rylix reported from navigation. "But I think I can plot us a way out using stellar positioning and gravitational drift calculations. Maya smiled. That's the other lesson humanity learned early. There's always a way out. You just have to be willing to try solutions that seem primitive. She turned to address the entire team. We have 5,000 passengers, a ship running on backup systems, and a void storm between us and safety. Who's ready to navigate by starlight? The response was immediate and unanimous. These students, who hours ago had dismissed human methods as primitive, were now eager to learn more. They had seen firsthand how reliable mechanical systems could be, how traditional knowledge could solve modern problems. The rescue operation was far from over. They still had to guide both ships through the void storm, maintain life support for multiple species, and keep all the mechanical systems functioning perfectly. But Maya could see in her students' eyes that something fundamental had changed. They were beginning to understand why humanity had insisted on maintaining these obsolete skills, why every ship still carried mechanical backups, why some problems needed human hands and human minds rather than quantum computers. "Take your stations," Maya ordered, watching her students move with growing confidence. "Let's show the galaxy that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We're going to bring these ships home using nothing but physics, mechanics, and human ingenuity." The void storm raged on, but inside the joined ships, a different kind of change was taking place. It was more than just a rescue operation now. It was a revival of knowledge that should never have been forgotten, a reminder that true technological progress meant building upon the past, not abandoning it. Maya watched as her students worked, their various forms bent over star charts, mechanical gauges, and manual controls. They were learning what humanity had known for centuries, that the most reliable technology is the kind you can fix with your own hands, understand with your own mind, and trust with your own life. Respect earned. The journey out of the void storm tested every lesson Maya had taught. For 6 grueling hours, the combined crews of both ships worked in perfect synchronization, using methods that predated quantum technology. Rylix monitored their position using stellar navigation, while Lan managed the complex atmospheric systems with nothing more sophisticated than pressure gauges and chemical sensors. Void intensity dropping, Rylix announced, their crystalline form glowing with excitement as they checked their mechanical instruments. Starfix confirms we're approaching the storm's edge. Maya nodded, watching as her students coordinated the final leg of their escape. Professor 69 had taken charge of maintaining the mechanical backup systems, their initial skepticism completely forgotten in the face of proven results. All atmospheric systems stable, Lan reported, their gaseous form swirling with pride. Manual regulation is actually providing better stability than our quantum controllers ever did. The first glimpse of clear space brought a cheer from both crews. The void storm still raged behind them, but ahead lay the safety of normal space, where their quantum systems could safely be brought back online, though many were beginning to question if they needed to. "Hold position," Maya instructed as they cleared the storm's influence. "Let's do a complete systems check before we power up anything quantum-based. Remember what we learned about rushing back to advanced technology." The students needed no convincing. They had learned the hard way that sometimes the most sophisticated solution wasn't the best one. One by one, they reported their status using manual checks and physical inspections. "Hull integrity at 92%, reported one team. "All breaches sealed using mechanical patches. "Life support functioning at optimal levels," added another. "Manual atmospheric mixing maintaining perfect stability for all species. Navigation systems confirm position within 0.1 parsec accuracy," Rylix announced proudly. "Stellar triangulation is remarkably precise when done properly." As the reports continued, Director Vex 427's voice came over the long-range radio. "Rescue Fleet, this is Galactic Institute Control. We've been monitoring your situation. What you've accomplished, it's unprecedented." Maya smiled as she looked at her students. "Not unprecedented, Director, just forgotten. Everything we did today was standard procedure once. We just had to remember why. The next few hours were spent carefully transferring the stellar dream systems back to quantum control, but with a significant difference. Under Maya's guidance, both crews maintained their mechanical backups in active status, ready to take over at a moment's notice. Consider this, Maya told them as they worked. Every quantum system we use today was developed because someone somewhere solved the problem manually first. Understanding the basics doesn't just give you a backup, it gives you mastery. The return to the Institute was triumphant, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of celebrating advanced technology, the crews of both ships were eager to share what they had learned about its limitations and the surprising sophistication of seemingly primitive solutions. Director Vex 427 met them in the main hangar, their bioluminescent patterns showing clear amazement. The Council has been in emergency session since your first success reports came in. They've unanimously voted to implement mandatory training in mechanical backup systems for all emergency response teams. Maya watched as her students began eagerly explaining their experiences to the gathered crowd. Rylix demonstrated the use of a sextant to amazed onlookers, while Land explained how manual atmospheric regulation had outperformed quantum systems in critical situations. Professor 69 approached Maya, their form showing signs of what humans would recognize as humility. "I owe you an apology," they began. "I thought these methods were primitive. I never considered that simplicity could be an advantage." "It's a lesson humanity learned the hard way," Maya replied. "Every tool, no matter how advanced, is just an extension of basic principles. Understand those principles, and you master the tool. Forget them, and the tool masters you." The director's patterns shifted to formal announcement colors. "Instructor Chen, the Council has another request. They want to establish a permanent division of basic methods and mechanical systems, with you as its head instructor. They believe, and I agree, that we've become too dependent on quantum technology. It's time to remember what we've forgotten." Maya looked at her students, now eager teachers themselves, as they shared their knowledge with others. "I accept, on one condition," she said. "We don't treat these methods as primitive alternatives. They're the foundation everything else is built on. A quantum core is just a very fancy steam engine if you understand the principles involved." The changes came quickly after that. Within months, the Institute's curriculum had been completely revamped. Every student now learned to solve problems manually before touching quantum technology. They learned to navigate by stars before using quantum positioning, to calculate atmospheric mixtures by hand before trusting computers, to understand the physical principles behind every advanced system they used. Maya stood in her new classroom, watching as students from across the galaxy practiced with ropes, pulleys, and mechanical gauges. On the wall, a quote had been inscribed in every known language. "Technology should enhance wisdom, not replace it." Today's lesson, she announced to her eager students, is about emergency reactor containment. But first, who can tell me how a simple lever works? Because sometimes, the difference between success and failure isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding why the basic principles never fail. The void storms still raged in distant parts of space, but they no longer held the same terror for emergency response teams. A new generation of rescuers was emerging, armed with both the most advanced technology and the knowledge of how to function without it. They carried quantum computers and sextants, fusion drives, and mechanical backups, confident in their ability to handle any situation. And somewhere in the vast archives of the Galactic Institute, a simple piece of rope was displayed in a place of honor, a reminder that true progress meant building upon the past, not abandoning it. The human way, as it turned out, wasn't about rejecting advanced technology. It was about understanding that every sophisticated solution began with simple principles, and that sometimes the old ways were still the best ways.